Good morning, everyone. My name is Neera Tanden, and I am CEO of the Center for American Progress. And I'm really excited to have Senator Kelly here today as part of our Path Forward series. Our Path Forward series here at CAP is really highlighting leaders who are talking about, who are addressing the country's most significant challenges. There are a lot of challenges today, so many of our leaders come to talk about issues that are live right now. But I think it's really crucial that we have leaders who are taking on the biggest challenges around the corner. And that is why we are particularly excited to have Senator Kelly here to talk about AI, the possible disruptions or likely disruptions that we are going to see from it, and how we as a country address that. I don't think it's news to anyone that we are living through one of the most significant technological disruptions in modern American history. Artificial intelligence is rapidly integrating into the systems that keep the country running. Our workplaces, healthcare networks, power grids, military, and even the way we talk and communicate with each other. The scale of that shift is enormous, and its speed is really unprecedented. For more than a century, electrification, computing, aerospace, the internet, the United States has usually been out in front, and it's true again with AI. But as we have seen with other technological revolutions, there are consequences. It can be a major advantage to the country, but there are ways in which the disruption that people face from these technologies can be have really massive impact. So it's crucial that we stay ahead as a country, that we innovate, that we make the right investments, but it's also really important that we have a strategy of how to deal with the dislocation and this disruption. And that is why we are so excited to have Senator Kelly here, because he has developed a national strategy to meet the scale of the moment. His AI for America blueprint isn't about slowing innovation. It's about ensuring that that innovation truly benefits everyone by supporting workers, strengthening institutions, and broadening access to opportunity. And I will also note that Senator Kelly has been a true leader on ensuring that we as a country are maintaining our research and innovation edge. And he's been that leader at a time where we are seeing really a reversal. Unfortunately, the ecosystem that has allowed the United States to be the innovators for AI and so many other technological innovations is actually under threat by the policies of this administration. It seems crazy to say that you would take a thing that actually has made America great and weaken it, but that is what the present administration, the Trump administration's policies are doing when it comes to investments in research that they are slashing, attacking universities and their research budgets, which is honestly going to hurt so many people. And when it comes to having an immigration policy that is ensuring that the world's smartest people do not come to the United States to innovate, but go elsewhere. None of that makes sense, and I'm so grateful for Senator Kelly's leadership on that issue. But I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that over the last few weeks, we have really seen Senator Kelly as a principled leader who is fighting for the most basic of American concepts. The idea that our government, our military acts in the right and not as countries like Iran and Russia would act, that we uphold our constitutional principles of due process, that we are a shining beacon for principle instead of a shining beacon for turning away from principle. And while I'm excited to have him here to talk about AI, I also could just not go without expressing my gratitude for him as a patriot and a principled leader. Senator Kelly?
Good morning, everybody. Great to be here with all of you. Neera, thank you. I want to talk about something that makes me very optimistic, but also something that keeps me up at night. Something that's absolutely critical to our economy, our national security, and our leadership in the world. Artificial intelligence and the future of American technology. I think we've reached a turning point. Other countries, especially China, they are pouring billions of dollars into AI and other emerging technologies. They're not just competing with us, they're trying to outcompete us. They're also trying to set the rules of the road for how all of this is going to work in the next century. And here at home, over the last year, we've seen a steady dismantling of the science and technology infrastructure that made America the leader in all this stuff in the first place. Research budgets have been slashed, projects have been frozen. Agencies like NASA, where I spent 15 years, and the National Science Foundation, they've been weakened by this administration. Thousands of scientists and engineers have been forced out of their jobs. And these agencies right now have no clear direction. We've got acting administrators in jobs that demand full-time leadership. We've got layoffs at NASA, at major space programs are being cut. 25% budget cut proposed by this administration that would bring the federal investment in fundamental science and space to its lowest level since 1961. Remember what happened in 1961? That's right before President Kennedy put us on a path to go into the moon. That's not how you lead. That's how you lose ground. But here's the good news. We all know how to fix this. And I've got a plan to do it. My roadmap, AI for America, identifies policy gaps and provides recommendations on how to ensure we continue to lead in artificial intelligence. And do it in a way that creates opportunity, protects workers, and strengthens our economy. So my office and we spent months with labor leaders, with tech experts, the AI industry, with local governments, with CEOs, with universities and nonprofits to figure all this out. And our plan starts with the AI Horizon Fund, which is a strategic investment in workers and community infrastructure to keep America ahead in AI. This fund will be resourced by the companies that benefit most from the AI boom. It will support American universities, startups, public-private partnerships that we will need to do the highest impact work in AI. The kind that might not pay off next quarter, but could redefine the next generation. It will support our workforce, because leadership in AI doesn't mean much if we do not have Americans that are trained and ready to leverage this technology. My roadmap calls for major investments in apprenticeships, community colleges, STEM education, and workforce transition programs, so workers can get the skills they need and have good jobs that will stay right here at home. Then, the fund will also support infrastructure. AI isn't going to run on good intentions. We need serious long-term investment in the physical systems that make all of this possible. And that's energy, water, broadband, and transportation. These systems need to be resilient and scalable. They need to be built in a way that doesn't pass the costs onto families and small businesses in the form of higher utility bills. That means planning ahead, building the capacity we need, especially in rural and high-growth areas. And yes, it also means investing in our national R&D infrastructure, investing in high-performance computing, investing in open training data sets and test beds that support safe, scalable, and deployable AI systems. Finally, guardrails and safety. We need clear, enforceable standards to make sure AI respects civil rights, protects privacy, and doesn't leave people behind. That includes strong transparency requirements, accountability mechanisms, and international coordination so that our values, not those of some authoritarian regime out there, our values shape the future of this technology. This is an actionable strategy with the resources and vision to make sure that we stay ahead. It's about competing from a position of strength. It's about making sure Americans benefit from AI, but not just the biggest corporations, like real people benefit from this. And not only in the richest zip codes, but everywhere across the country. My proposal here is, it's just meant to be the start of a conversation, not the end. And I'm listening and discussing different perspectives to move this forward, to get people to back the AI Horizon Fund, to get people to understand that we have to strengthen our workforce, we have to strengthen our infrastructure, and we have to support smart, responsible laws that keep this technology safe and true to our values. Because American leadership, it doesn't happen by accident. It takes planning, it takes investment, it takes commitment, and it takes action. So let's get to work on this. Thank you for having me come by to discuss this, and I look forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Senator Kelly. And as I said, thank you for working on these issues, for addressing this, putting this forward now as this technology takes off instead of after we've seen all the disruption. So it is really vital, as I said, to have leaders who are looking at challenges around the corner. That's really crucial. So thank you for being here. I think I would just, I will definitely have a series of questions around AI, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you at least a question or two about the last couple of weeks.
Well, what happened?
That is a good question. What did happen?
I can tell you what happened is not what I expected to happen.
Yeah, I guess I would just ask you first, I guess from my reading of events and just casually reading the news, you and some other former military leaders talked about basic American law in a PSA. And then you were attacked relatively viciously. And then we learned...
Can it be more vicious? Execute them. Hang them.
Yeah, it was pretty high. I mean, low bar here, but yes. And then we've learned over the last week a lot of really searing details about the possible illegal actions by possibly the Secretary of Defense or others in violating military law. So I guess I'd ask you just, to talk through, your experience over the last couple of weeks and just the fact that just after this attack on you, we learned facts that confirmed essentially the gist of what you were saying.
At least, makes the justification obvious why we said it, right? We know who Donald Trump is.
Yeah.
We've known that for a long time. When you consider the things that this president has said in the past, about, in 2016, he talked about how he wanted the military to kill the families of terrorists. Families. That means kids, women and children. And he was told on a debate stage, the U.S. military would not do that. That would be illegal. He said, the military will not refuse my orders. He has talked about shooting protesters in the legs. Clearly an example of something that would be American protesters in the legs, clearly an example of something that would be unlawful to give the military that order. Fortunately, at the time, Mark Esper was like, we can't do that. He's also talked about sending U.S. troops into cities and using those cities as training grounds. What that means is American citizens would be used for the military to train on. You combine that with a Secretary of Defense who is by far the most unqualified SecDef this country has ever seen, who runs around on a stage talking about hunting and killing people and lethality and warrior ethos. We've never heard words like that out of a Secretary of Defense before. So we were concerned. And we just said something very simple and basic. Follow the law.
That's not so basic for
and
this
Donald
president.
Trump says, kill them, which we were not expecting.
Yeah.
The reaction I was expecting even from this president, if he said anything, he would have said 2 words, of course. But he didn't. And now he wants to prosecute me under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, FBI, all that. He's trying to silence us. He's trying to silence me. He didn't like what I said. He wants me to shut up. But he picked the wrong guy to go after, because that ain't happening. But it still sends a chilling message. And certainly if I was to back down, what message does that send? So that's not happening. He's going after Americans' First Amendment rights. This president does not like people to disagree with him. You can see it in the cabinet meeting. I mean, have you ever seen anything like that? It is crazy that he sits around and all these people kiss his ass. Nobody will ever disagree with him. You know, when I used to be the commander of the space shuttle, I used to tell my crew members when we would start training for a mission, which was like a year and a half or 2 years before we would fly, I would tell them in a meeting, I'd sit them down, I'd say, okay, guys, you have to question my decisions. This is high stakes, dynamic. We can get killed. We could lose a multi-billion-dollar asset. People could get hurt on the ground. If you think I'm doing something wrong here and it affects safety or mission success, you gotta tell me about it, and we'll figure it out together. Not this guy. Thinks he's the smartest person in the world. He's not. And he's put a bunch of sycophants around him, which is a recipe for huge problems.
And then I just asked one follow-up question, given the news about Signalgate, where the Inspector IG said that the actual Secretary of Defense had placed the military soldiers in harm's way from his, very careless handling of classified information by posting it on Signal. And
on his personal cell phone.
On his personal
which
cell phone.
Could be compromised.
Yes. So I guess I just would love your thought on you being judged by Secretary Hegseth, who literally was just informed by the Inspector General that he placed the soldiers who he's responsible for in harm's way.
I don't take the guy very seriously. I mean, he talks about me on Twitter. I'm a captain in 06 in the U.S. Navy, retired. He puts the captain in quotes. Like he thinks these 4 little dots are going to scare me. He's not a serious person. He did put members of the military at significant risk, putting operational information on a signal chain that could be, if his phone was, being monitored, let's say by the Russians send that information to the Iranians sent it to the Houthis. It was when these airplanes were in the air. Houthis probably know generally where they're going for certain targets. They know where their aircraft carrier is. They know how fast the airplanes go. they could anticipate, what time these planes would be, in the range of surface-to-air missile systems. He could have shot them down. He wanted to show off to his buddies on the National Security Council, ooh, look what I just heard. I just got this cool information. I'm going to share it with you. There are also devices, as you know, that you can share classified information that he should have had access to. So yeah, he was told by the Inspector General that he put those folks at risk. He also said the information wasn't classified because after the fact, he declassified it in his head.
That's not how it worked when I served
Not
in the
how it's
government.
supposed to work.
Just to say.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, so there's so much that you've put on the table on AI, so I definitely want to get to that. So I really wanted to just ask first and foremost, the AI plan, basically a big component is the AI Horizon Fund. And I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about the need for the fund. As we've seen in prior technologies, you'll have some companies just massively benefit from the innovation, and yet the disruption is really dispersed and affects communities far away from where those companies are. So if you could talk to us about your theory of action for the Horizon Fund, that'd be great.
Well, a couple things. First of all, we want AI to be a winner for workers, working class people, middle class people, not just a big boon for these giant companies. If that happens, we're in big trouble. We'll have more rising issues with income inequality. And we just can't let that happen. We're already in a bad place with regards to that issue right now. It can't get worse. So we've got to make this worker focused. There's going to be some disruption in the workforce. People are going to lose their jobs. I had a group of small business owners in my office about a month ago. There were about a dozen of them there. One was a yogurt shop. And they were relatively, some of them had like maybe 50 employees. I said to this group, have any of you guys like not hired a person or got rid of a person because of AI? Every one of them put their hands up, which shocked me. I was really surprised. Even the yogurt guy, like maybe he got rid of an accountant or something. I don't know for sure. We didn't get into the details, but there's going to be disruption out there. So we have to figure out a way to retrain people for maybe jobs that we don't know will exist yet, or retrain somebody mid-career through some kind of program. And you know who does this well is unions, apprenticeship programs, but they need funding to do this. Also community colleges. Community colleges aren't like awash in money, so they need some support. And I've seen some of these, some programs that have been successful already with regards to semiconductor manufacturing.
Yeah.
There's Estrella Mountain Community College has this thing called a Quick Start program where it's about 2 weeks of training. And at the end of the program, you're guaranteed an interview with a semiconductor manufacturing company. And I met this woman who was unemployed for a year, single mom with 3 kids. She was having a hard time finding any job, like even in fast food, she told me. And in her spam email folder, she finds this advertisement for this program. And she thought it was like some kind of scam, but she was like, well, what do I have to lose? So she called the number. She got into the program. She now works at Intel making semiconductor chips.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is, after you're there like a year or two, it's like $85,000 a year job.
Yeah, as a country, we're very bad at training.
Compared to other countries, we do not do this well.
And so how we build that system and ensure it's not just one-off is a big national, it's a vital national goal ahead of this AI revolution. So I really appreciate your thoughts there. And then, you said something in your plan, the government needs to build an AI boom for all, not another tech bubble for the few. I think also, the AI revolution is coming after two events. After, trade has ensured that American workers are facing a sort of global arbitrage on labor and wages, in the 80s and 90s. And then on top of that, a tech boom, which has, brought a lot of jobs, but has not been, the benefits of which have not been evenly applied. A lot more money and value and wealth moving even more to the coasts, a lot less, and, a lot
to single individuals.
Yes, and a lot to single individuals. So that principle seems really vital to sustain even support for AI. Talk a little bit about why you think that's important and how it emanates through your plan.
Well, let me start by saying, when we had something similar, not the tech boom, but electricity, like pre-electricity, pre-industrial revolution, right? If you go back to like the 18th century, 1700s, GDP growth over a century would be about 8%, over 100 years. If you go pre-1800.
Yeah.
After that, happened very quickly. In 100 years, it was like 350%. We could see the same kind of acceleration. Some people say we could go, I don't believe this, and I've talked to economists that say this is a bunch of crap. But there are other economists that say we could see GDP growth of like 20% a year. I do not. I think that is not possible. It's kind of crazy. And that presents tremendous challenges. But also, if you think about like how wealthy some individuals have become because of the tech boom, if you take the wealthiest person in the country during the Reagan administration and you fast forward them to today, obviously with the inflation built into that valuation of their net worth, the richest person in the country would be worth $15 billion. I mean, how many people do we have worth more than $100 billion? Or there are people, worth more than $250 billion and more than $400 billion.
Someone's getting a payout for $1 trillion.
$1 trillion.
For $1 trillion.
But only if he deploys 1 million robots.
Yeah.
Now, I do like the idea of this kind of technology. I'm really into innovation, and I think this could be a big winner for all of us in material science and fundamental chemistry and medicine, and we can cure diseases. But we can also really screw this up, in a big way. I mean, we've done that before. We're actually pretty good at that. Social media is a perfect example.
Yeah, great example.
The Australians announced today that they're going to ban social media, ban it for the younger teenagers.
Yep.
I don't know at what age. So we've got to come up with I wanted to come up with a plan that would address some issues, the workers, to make this focused on the workforce and middle-class people so they benefit, and not just workers in California and New York, but all across the country. It's going to be a challenge to do that, but then we have to get to the infrastructure, issues as well, because, and I could tell you a couple stories here, we really have to figure this out, and I do worry that if we don't, we're going to have a movement against data centers. And we need these data centers if AI is going to be successful. And we need AI to be successful not only for the promises that we could get out of it and the technology we could get out of it, we also need it to be successful because of the amount of money that's already been invested in it. And if there's a big bubble and that bubble bursts in a really bad way, it's going to be harmful to the broader economy. It might make the downturn in 2008 look like a party.
Yeah, let me follow up on data centers in particular, right? So I think one of the whole issues on data centers is, which you definitely address, is the data center, you need a massive infusion of energy in order to fund AI. And if you just have the data centers out there, essentially what that means is that the average consumer companies, other companies are just paying higher rates because of the big demand. On the other side of this, the Chinese can build energy faster than we can. And in fact, they're investing a lot more in renewables at a time where the current administration is basically assaulting renewables. Another way in which, another policy that doesn't really make sense as you're seeing utility rate increases. So I think the question is that a lot of political leaders are grappling with, and I'd just love to talk about more, how do we have a fair system in which the average consumer is not basically, in a way, subsidizing the AI companies through how much they're paying extra for energy? And again, the AI companies are able to attract, these are like the highest market cap companies in the world. So it does seem a little unfair that your average working person in America is paying more for utilities because of their demands.
So I had a data center CEO in my office maybe about a month ago or so, and he was trying to add a data center in Maricopa County, and he approached one of the two big utilities. There's SRP and APS, and said, hey, I want to put this data center in, and this is the amount of power it needs. And they said to him, well, for us to add that capacity and that infrastructure required to hook you up and be able to deliver that power, it's going to cost $600 million. And the way he said it, I thought, he could afford that. And then I said, so you're going to do that? And he said, absolutely not. He's not going to be able to. If the way this typically works is the utility would pay the $600 million, they would raise people's rates immediately to be able to fund that infrastructure improvement. So everybody's rates would go up. And then over time, when that, that data center would be paying the power bill. So I don't know what's going to happen with that data center. Is it going to go somewhere else, or is it not going to be built at all? We need it to be built somewhere, but we don't want homeowners and small businesses, especially people on fixed incomes. We already have a problem in Phoenix in the summer where seniors on fixed incomes turn their air conditioning off and then wind up in the emergency room because they can't afford to cool their homes. So one of the things we could do is through the AI Horizon Fund, we'll have the resources. If companies are willing to chip in over time, we could have the resources to add more power to the grid and build the distribution system that we will need. We would also like to see these data centers be a net positive for the grid. If they added battery capacity, let's say, and some renewable energy. Now, the renewable energy is, as you say, it's under attack by this administration. For some reason, Donald Trump's got this thing about windmills. Probably has to do with his golf course in Scotland and that fight he was in over the offshore windmills. But he's attacking. He's like Don Quixote with the attacking the windmill and solar.
Yeah.
Do you guys know this? 90% of the energy we have added to the grid, Julian, it's 90, right? Over the last 2 or 3 years, it's solar, wind, and hydroelectric. 90%. And Donald Trump made it harder to permit solar and wind projects when they have a federal nexus to them. Made it harder for us to add the energy that we've already been adding. And he says, well, he thinks we're going to add, natural gas-powered power plants. The backlog on 2-cycle gas turbines for power plants are years. Not able to get them. So all the energy we've added to the grid over the last few years, when you look forward over the next few years, forget it. We're not going to be able to do it until this guy gets out of office and we get some sensible energy policy back in the White House. So we got that challenge. It's a big challenge. And just on both those utilities, and I'll finish up there, APS and SRP in Maricopa County, each of them have a piece of paper with all the customers that have contacted them that say, hey, in the coming 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we want to build this data center or this plant, and the amount of energy the amount of power that adds up to is 16 gigawatts in Maricopa County. Maricopa County already today just happens to provide 16 gigawatts of power. So they have to double it in 5 years when it took APS 130 something years to get here.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to do it, but at least we want to be able to have a chance of getting close.
Great. I'm going to turn to audience questions in 1 minute. I just have one last question here, so just get your questions ready. And as a reminder, when we call on you, please say who you are and if you're affiliated with an organization, and please try to make it a question. I'm a good enforcer of that. We talked a little bit about workers, and I wanted to bring it back to workers. Just yesterday, we saw, at least in the ADP data, that in the private sector jobs, we've actually seen declines. We'll say in the previous administration, we were never had seen a job decline month to month. And now we are seeing 3 in the last 4 months data that there's actual job declines. I think there's a lot of open questions of how much AI is impacting jobs already, but at least initial stages, there seems to be good indications that at least for people exiting college and coming into the workforce for the first time, they are seeing they're bearing the brunt brunt. So as you're thinking about training models, how are you thinking about that specific problem? People who are coming out of college, looking for jobs. People will still need those employees later on, second, third year when they have judgment, and AI can't really replace all that training. But how are you seeing that differential? And is it making you think? How is it shaping your plans?
Well, there are a lot of jobs available, and we don't have the workers to do them right now. So that number did not have to be that way if we had the training in place to give people the right skills for the jobs that are currently available, like electricians. I don't know, across the country, there are thousands and thousands of jobs available for people who, are qualified to build things like data centers and semiconductor plants. Even some white-collar jobs like in cybersecurity. So if we've got to be pretty dynamic about this. We've got to have the right data. This administration has not been good in getting accurate data. They actually fire the people that do those jobs. But if we have the right data and we have a dynamic way of doing workforce training, and we can also communicate a message to young people especially, but also people in mid-career that might be displaced, these are the kind of careers you need to be going into, we could reverse that number, I think, relatively quickly, because there are a lot of jobs available somebody needs a job right now, go move to Phoenix and start making semiconductors. Really, there are job openings there today, or anything in, union apprenticeships if you're, good working with your hands or you want to do something like that. So it's just matching the jobs available, with the people who are looking for jobs and making sure they have the training to do those jobs. Yeah,
in our country, what distinguishes us from many others that handle this better is that we leave it up to the worker to bear the burden of training themselves. And so we really can't just pick up and move to Phoenix. But if there was training where you were, where you didn't have to put out all the money because it was a partnership between business and government, then it would make it easier for people to manage these transitions.
I think some countries have programs where if you lose your job, you go to the unemployment office and then they immediately send you to some training program.
That's actually good.
Yeah, where there's a job on the other end of the training program. It's just a pipeline. You lost this job, we're going to get you into another one rather quickly.
Yeah. Great. All right. Questions from the audience over here. And again, just say your name and if you're with an organization.
Thank you. Abay Katoch, formerly Liberal Party of Canada, now Federation of American Scientists. We've seen a lot of proposals from Representatives Ted Lieu, Bill Foster, regarding federal legislation on AI. And then we've also seen the Trump administration try and push preemption of state AI laws in things like the NDAA and other sort of bills as well. I'm curious what you think, whether federal legislation on AI exists. Your opinion on state preemption of AI laws. Do you think that might be a good thing, bad thing?
You mean whether it exists right now?
Should we preempt?
Yeah,
Or should it be possible for the federal government to preempt state laws? Is that what you're asking?
In the event that federal legislation on AI laws exists, like Ted Lieu's proposal, do you think we
I
should
see.
preempt?
Yeah, I
state
think
AI?
generally, if you have a federal law that really, really strongly addresses issues, I think the states should follow those laws. Right now, we don't have that. And I think it's up to the states to be able to protect their citizens in those states, state legislatures and the governor, when they see that there's a problem, it's not only their right, it's their responsibility to be able to protect their citizens from bad stuff happening to them. Think about, the problems we have right now. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, the Intelligence Committee, the Environment and Public Works Committee. I'm also on the Special Committee on Aging. And the amount of scams against seniors, it is depressing. And it's shocking at how many billions of dollars folks often on a fixed income are losing to scams. This is going to get worse with AI unless we're able to take, responsible and strong steps to combat this. And if the federal government isn't on board, the federal government's often, way behind, right? Takes so long to get things through Congress, especially the Senate. I was at NASA for 15 years. If NASA had the rules of the U.S. Senate, the rocket ship would never leave the launch pad. So in the absence of the federal legislation, I think it's appropriate for states to be able to do this.
Question over here.
Hi, I'm Catherine Cheney. I work with DevX, and we're a media company focused on global development, which it's been a tough year for that sector, as you can imagine. My question is, I know you're focused on AI for America, but I think a lot of what you're saying resonates thinking about AI globally. So I think about the African continent, for example, where the US has a much decreased presence this year. And in the absence of the US presence there, there's a lot of AI infrastructure going in. Others are kind of setting the terms in terms of AI values. You mentioned China, for example. So I wonder if you have a thought on the US's role in AI globally, including in places like Africa, or is that just kind of a pick your battles moment right now and we're focusing on AI in America?
No, I think we not only do we, have a role, we should be taking steps to making sure that the standards of this industry are based on our standards and our values. And if we completely abandon places like Africa, which, by the way, is the only place in the world right now that has, positive growth in the number of people, we're going to be left behind. And the Chinese are very willing to try to compete with us in Africa and other places, and cutting programs that brought us such goodwill, like food assistance for starving countries and things like PEPFAR, helping, countries deal with HIV and AIDS. Those were, really powerful and beneficial programs, not just to those African nations, but to us. And abandoning those programs, it just, knocks us back a couple notches in leadership in the world. So we got to right that ship. At the same time, we need to partner with other nations. So we're the ones that build the framework for how this industry is going to exist across the globe, because if we don't do it, we know who is, and that's not going to be beneficial to us.
Do we have an online question?
Yes, this one is from Jim online. Senator, as a military man, do you see a threat to from AI to world peace by giving the world's military so much power? And how would you think about that?
Well, AI, I mean, we could have a whole nother one of these. We could do a couple hours on how AI is going to integrate into the military. It already is. And we've got some, ethical, moral things to figure out, rules of engagement. By the way, again, back to the Secretary of Defense who wants to throw out rules of engagement. Doesn't seem to care so much about the rule of law. This gets more complicated when you start integrating artificial intelligence systems into weapon systems, into the kill chain. We're seeing some of this in Ukraine already, where the battlefield innovation is on steroids, and the innovation cycle is happening very quickly, especially with regards to FPV, first-person view drones. You're going to see artificial intelligence being integrated into those systems here very soon. Our going-in proposition in this, and I really believe this, that we do not want essentially robots, artificial intelligence to be making the decision to kill people, and then all the way through the kill chain to the time the weapon is launched, to the time it hits the target, there's no human in the loop. That's not the direction I think we should go. There will be some resistance to that, especially as our adversaries build those kind of systems. And they could even decide to put this into the National Command Authority for their nuclear weapons and start going down that route. That causes me tremendous amount of concern. The Russians used to actually have a system that wasn't AI. I mean, it was way before AI, but it was basically a dead man switch that if the communication stopped between the silo and the National Command Authority, the ICBMs would launch against us. Now they've disabled it. It doesn't exist anymore as far as we know. But that did exist during the height of the Cold War. We don't.
Have they not seen movies about how this could go really badly wrong?
They apparently not. That could have gone really bad at some time. And we've been, the whole nuclear proliferation and the risk of miscalculation with nuclear weapons is a big deal for me, and it's something we're also trying to, address. I don't know if anybody's seen the movie A House of Dynamite on Netflix. It's a good movie to watch. It's got a couple, technical issues in it, but it sends a really strong and powerful message I think all of Americans should see.
Excellent. Question over here? I think we have time for one more question. Oh, we'll take two. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Roger Cochetti, and I am author and retired business executive for ComSat, IBM, and technology companies. Because you're one of those rare people who has an expertise at the intersection of technology, national security, and public policy, my question lies at the intersection of those three. Everyone recognizes that electric power is a key obstacle to the growth of data centers. And there's lots of different ideas thrown out, but I'd like to ask about one that you might be able to explain, and that is, we've had small nuclear reactors virtually for my entire life. They're put on submarines that, house people right next door to them. Why is it not feasible to simply tell whoever manufactures the nuclear power plants for submarines, give us another 300 of those and we'll put one at each data center, and boom, the problem is solved. If it can power a nuclear submarine, why can't it power a data center? And I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but if you could explain that or your own views on that, it would be helpful. Thank you.
I would say for the reactors that we actually have on submarines and aircraft carriers, that design, I think it's rather crew intensive, and you need a lot of folks monitoring it. We have these small modular reactors that are also nuclear reactors that use different kinds of technology that require fewer people, that are safer, that are in a lot of ways perfect for this application. There are two, right, Julian? There's two that are licensed in the U.S., two SMRs that are currently licensed in the U.S., and I think you're going to start seeing this. We need to get other designs licensed. There are companies out there that have other ways to do this. There are some operational SMRs, not in the United States. I think maybe in Canada there's one, in China. China, Russia have some. We're going to see them here. And then you can put the power behind the meter. Doesn't even affect the grid or the demand. One problem we do have in getting more of these licensed is, getting them through the process at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. They're understaffed. I don't know how much they were doged here, but they have been understaffed, and they have to often make decisions. Do we want to do the permitting process for the big, giant, huge megawatts, something like Palo Verde or like a nuclear power plant, or do we focus on the SMRs? I've been trying to get them to do both, because I think we do need both.
We have another online question.
This is from Bill Online. Senator, he asked, the United States is suffering a brain drain of scientists and researchers at universities because of the Trump administration's proposed cuts in fundings for NIH and NSF. How can Congress protect the next generation of young scientists from these reductions in funding for basic science?
Well, we can just, tell Donald Trump he's not getting his budget that he wants. How ridiculous. I think this president thinks that we have the world's largest economy ever because of real estate developers. It's not. It's because of science.
Yeah.
It's because we invest in fundamental science, and it's really only in the United States that we do this at this level where we just don't invent things. We invent industries, like out of thin air. We've done it throughout the history of our country so much better than anybody else, and that's why we are the wealthiest country in the world. And he basically just turned off the spigot. A 25% cut to NASA's budget and cuts to NSF and university research. He's done a lot of really dumb things. I put this in the top 10 because these investments, you get the money back. Yeah, it might take you 5 or 10 years, but you get it all back. We should, if anything, we should be investing more money, not less, in science and scientific research and university research. So, question was, what can we do? Well, we could ignore the president. It's our job, Article I branch of government, to ultimately create the budget, without his priorities in it. I think we should do that, especially on this, on other things as well. And then he'll have to make a decision whether or not he signs it.
Can I just do a quick follow-up on that? In the past, Republicans and Democrats have led on research issues. It has, in fact, been a very bipartisan issue. In the 90s, it was lots of Republicans pushing for increases in NIH budget. Democrats and Republicans have pushed for it. As a leader on this issue, where are Republicans on this? You could ask that on every issue.
I don't know. Maybe they feel like if they say we don't support your cuts to science, the president will respond with, I'll execute you.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I said follow the law. He said hang them. They're afraid of him.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Lisa Murkowski, as an example, spoke out, recently about the issue. But when you have a president that is threatening members of Congress with their lives, it's hard for most of them to stand up to the guy and say, I don't like your thing. This is the wrong approach. He might not literally say what he said to us as Democrats, but I'll tell you what he will do, and he's done this already. He said, I will make sure you're not reelected. He will aggressively come after their job. He'll come after stuff in their districts or their states. He has shown a pattern of retribution unlike any other president we've ever had. And he has stepped over a line that should never be crossed.
I guess I just ask, when this Congress has less power because of the president, when the Congress has less appropriating power, when it's voting less, it doesn't. what is the point of the job for the Republican senators who are just like, I will just ignore the Constitution because of a primary threat?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point of the job for us,
Yeah.
even rises to like even a heightened level to try to, push back and make sure and hold them accountable. And I'm going to continue to do that. For them, it gets like less significant because they're just going to, follow along like sheep.
Yeah.
It's kind of embarrassing. So I don't know. That's a question you got to ask them.
Yeah. Well, when they come in the Path Forward series, I definitely
They
will
come
do
here
that. Our last question right here. Sorry, we're just wait for the thing. Just
sure.
so because the cameras.
Eddie Ayub at Barnes & Thornburg. No affiliation, just part of my firm's AI working group because of this future. And Senator, I was going to say, when I saw you yesterday, I did not know I was going to be here, or else I would have asked this question. You mentioned guardrails and operating within our values and ethics. How do you enforce that? And then, because we're living in such a multinational, global economy, you're going to have these companies operating both in the United States and outside the United States. So do you envision a mechanism where if you follow the rules in the United States, you have to follow the rules elsewhere? There's a lot of companies who operate in democracies and a lot of companies who operate in not democracies, not even whether our allies or otherwise. So how do you enforce that? And then how do you deal with this transnational issue of multiple jurisdictions and multiple legalities and legal systems and what have you?
Well, I think if we stay the leader in this technology and all the best chips are made here and we share some of these chips with our allies, we shouldn't share them with their adversaries like China. I don't think that's a good idea. But if we make if we create the rules, maybe we can get our allies to work within the system that we have and we've created. I think we'll have leverage there. I hope we do. But that's a really good question, Eddie, and I think it's something that I'm going to talk to my folks about. Maybe as we expand this, plan here, which I have right in here, as we expand this plan, we will, have to incorporate new ideas. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Kelly. I really appreciate this really robust conversation. It does tell us how much interest there is in AI. And I want to say again how thankful we are for you sharing thoughts and really leadership on these issues before they, create a lot more harms. And that you're absolutely right that we can avoid a lot of the pitfalls if we actually show leadership now. That might not come from the White House for a few years, but hopefully it will eventually come. And I just, again, want to finally say how grateful we are for you, really standing up for the Constitution and, the separation of powers and actually just what it means to be an American. So thank you.
Thank you.